In this tutorial we're going to take a look at controlling the font using cascading style sheets. Okay, some of the important things about using different fonts is that the font must be installed on the user's machine in order for it to be displayed. And so there are what's called font families. And the ones I have listed here in this sample CSS file, which I have commented out all these different lines, and we're going to uncomment them and take a look at them, is that if the user has a PC or a Macintosh or a Linux machine, that font may or may not be installed on their machine. So the browser can't display a font that it doesn't have. And so what you do is you have what's called font families. And these are fonts that are similar, and they may be on a PC or a Mac, and so you have the different font names. Now, what's important about the different font names is if it has a space in it, you have to put it in a quotation mark. Okay, and then this is, for instance, this may be the PC version, this may be the Mac version. And what it does is, as the browser tries to display the font, what it does, it looks for this font. If it can't find it, then it looks for this font, and if it can't find that font, then it uses a basic sans serif font. Now let's talk about that for just a second. A serif font has the little flags on it. So let's take a look at this. So if you look at some of these fonts right here, you'll see that down here at the bottom, it's really kind of hard to see here. Let me blow this up just a little bit. You'll see that it has this little tag, little flag at the end here. So the L has little pieces kind of hanging off of it. Well, that's a serif. Okay, so let's go back to small size here. So a sans serif means a font without those little flags on it. So let's take a look at a couple of those right here. So let's look at this Arial Black and Gadget. So let's take this off right here. And let's take a look at that. So let's go to our page and let's refresh. And you can see that now our L does not have a little flag hanging off of it. So let's take a look at, so it's using an Arial Black, which this is a PC, so it should have that. And then the sans serif means if you can't find Arial Black or Gadget, then use a non sans serif. So let's just for fun, let's just take out all this right here and let's see what happens. So we're just going to use a sans serif font. So I'm going to save that, do a refresh, and you can see that it didn't look for any font, but it did use basically the default font without the little flags on it. So let's blow this up a little bit. You can see that there's no little flags on the L. So that gets rid of the serifs. So now let's take a look at this one, which is Bookman Old Style and then a serif. So let's take that off right there. And let's save it and let's take a look at what happens there. So we're going to refresh. And you'll notice that it pretty much is the default font. So if I put this back and save it, you're going to see that this is the default font. So this machine, this PC, does not have this Bookman Old Style, but this would be a font that's probably on a Macintosh. So you need to do some research and probably find out which ones which units have. And so you want to always use a font that they're going to have, because if you want to use something that's not on their machine, then you may not get the result you want, and things may wrap and not wrap, or be too big, not too big, that kind of stuff like that. So you want to make sure you have a font that's on their machine. So look at the different font families. Just remember to keep them in the quotation marks there. So let's take a look at some of the other things we have. Let's go back and let's make this this Courier. Let's take this off just for a second. I want to show you one more font here. And what's neat about Courier is it has the words are all spaced equally. So you have the space between each letter is the same. So that's what's important about a Courier font. Okay. So let's go back to this, undo that, and save, and let's go back down here. Let's take a look at some other things. So we're back to our default font, which is the browser default. And let's look at some of the other controls we have. We have font size. So let's take this out, and we want it extra small. So let's refresh, and so we can get this font really small. Now I can still make this bigger in my browser, but this would be the default font. So if I rolled the wheel here, I can still make it bigger, but that's the default that you want them to see. So let's put this back, and let's take a look at what extra large looks like. Save that, refresh. So now we've got a really huge font. Okay, so that's the controls we have on size. And let's see what else. We could also do a percentage size. So if you have one that's set to a certain size and then you want to change it to 50% of that or 10%, so you want to have them relate to each other, you can do that. We also have control over whether we want to turn off something. We can make the style normal or we can have italic. That's really the only two we have there. So it's either italic or it's normal. And then we have some variants, so we can either turn off the variant with normal or we can have small caps. So if we wanted to take this one out, let's save that and let's see what we get here. So it's all caps, but they're small. So a small cap is the first letter's large and then the rest of them are caps, but they're a little bit smaller. That's what small caps is. So let's take that out. And then we've got the weight, which is, you can turn it off using normal. You can have bold, bolder, or lighter, or you can use these numbers here. So 100, 200, 500 is the default. So if we want it to be really a heavy weight font, then we could turn on 900 here. And let's see what happens when we refresh that. And so it makes it bold. If we want it to be really light, let's put this back. And let's save this. Let's see what happens when we do that. So we can turn the font. Doesn't look too much different there. So, but you can change how heavy. So you can use bold, bolder, or lighter, but most of the time you're probably going to use the font weight here. So these are some of the controls you have in fonts for controlling the different way that things are displayed in the browser.